So I was gonna do a whole gag at the start of this episode where I got dripped on and it all built to a climax, but the guy didn't show up. So we're just gonna go straight to the climax and move on. We're recording drips today. Let's get straight to recording. That was more water than I expected. From the first, you're going to realise that the main problem you're going to have is the volume level. It's extremely quiet. But there are a few things you can do to prevent this. The first being getting the microphone as close as possible to the impact point. This is easier said than done though, as you've got to consider some protection for your microphone, unless you plan on using that mic as a doorstop in the future. The best way I found for my condenser was placing it at a 45-degree angle, as close as I could with the diaphragm aiming at the impact point, and placing a pop filter just in front to prevent any splashback. The type of mic used can also help here. What you're basically looking for is something highly directive, pretty damn sensitive, and with a low noise floor. So some hyper or super cardioid mics, like some small diaphragm pencil condensers or shotgun mics. Yeah, they'll work just fine. Unfortunately though, I didn't have these, so I just used my condenser. And it didn't turn out that badly. The main problem I had was getting the mic as close as possible, because it's a pretty thick mic, and also they're normally one of the most expensive, so don't drop it in the bath like I did. You can also use contact mics and hydrophones, but we'll get onto how you can use them more effectively later. Good preamps will also help here, because of the low noise floor. But also, the height you drop the water from will also play a role in how loud the impact is. Talking about the method used to create the drip though, I did what the Sound Effects Bible said and stuck my hand in a glass of water. This can be done with anything though, like a towel or a sponge. You can do this with most objects, but we're trying to get the most control here, which is why I guess they found using your hand to be most effective. Oh, one thing though, be careful of when you first pull your hand out of the water. There'll be a rush of water and it could go all over your equipment. You hear that? It's the main sound I think of for a drip. But that pitch slide is created by a drip into water. So make an observation as to what your drip is landing on before you go out and try and create it. But first, we'll try the drip into water. A bathtub or sink should work great for this, but try avoid metal basins, as these caused a low to low mid impact sound that was louder than the actual drip itself. My ceramic sink worked a lot better for me. Set up your main microphone as close to the impact as possible, as we talked about earlier, but be extra careful here because the splashback's gonna be wild. The hydrophone also worked pretty well here, dangling just under the surface of the water, but the lower you go, the more you get of the lower pitch resonances. The audio from the hydrophone though, mixed in pretty well with the standard one from my condenser. It added a bit more punch. It's a very punchy sound you're going to get from that hydrophone. It's very clean as well. It will also give you a lot more low end to work with as well. So if the drips are somewhat significant to the story, you could add that weight in and give a little more impact to them. Reverb would also help here too. Moving on to dry surfaces. Check the sound it would make on impact by tapping on it first. Things like bowls and cups will have a resonant pitch. The thing it's made out of will affect it too. For example, metal pots will create a larger impact sound. So make sure it's what you want. You can't change that initial impact in post. Freestanding mic will be generally the same, off axis and as close as fucking possible. But the contact mic position will depend on what the drip's falling onto. If the object's thin enough, whack that contact mic on the back and stick it exactly where the impact point would hit above. I got the best results this way. Your next best bet is sticking the contact mic as close to the impact point as possible. And no, dripping onto the contact mic will not work. I tried it with both the hydrophone and the contact mic, and lo and behold, it's just a fuck ton of bass. Like the hydrophone though, the contact mic will provide you with a punchier and more weighty sound for the impact of your drip. So if you're skint and you don't have any money, a contact mic may be the best way to go, just to get that initial impact sound, which you can treat and try and improve. Here's a myriad of drips onto different materials. Treating these sounds though, the most obvious task you're going to face is getting rid of or lowering that noise floor. A noise reduction plugin is obviously going to do you best here, but these aren't always an option for most people. I mean, try the free things like reverb, but the problems I was finding with that is the general artifacts that come with them. The sounds that occur through phasing, which you then would hopefully be able to get rid of with a gate. But you're going to have to experiment here because there may be other noise in your recordings than just the noise from the preamps or the microphone. If you manage to reduce the noise though, one side effect may be that the sound is slightly duller than it originally was. Use an exciter! This will saturate the highs and hopefully give you back some of what you lost. Try it! This should be used in moderation, but you can add a little more slap to that initial impact with a transient shaper or by using a compressor with as short as release time as possible, and then increase that attack time until you get more of that punch. A compressor can also be used in the standard way here quite effectively to bring the dynamic range to a more suitable level. Be careful though, the more you compress, the more that noise floor is going to come right back. If your drips become a bit lifeless, reverb is your best bet. I'm not saying you have to drown it. Although you could, depending on the environment of the scene. Even just working with the early reflections and a small amount of the longer tailed echoes, the standard or most notable part of reverb, you can put it in a space which stops it from being too dry and unnatural sounding. You can also tune the reverb to the resonances of your drip by boosting certain frequencies and adjusting the early reflection times to one that produces an octave or that around the resonance. There'll be an early reflection time that suits it, that's all I'm saying. So adjust it and see what works best for you. I hope you've had fun recording drips. I certainly have. Tell me if you find anything else out. Bye.